Sticking around. I know that we've got a break coming up, so bear with me for 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to go through some really interesting stuff, and hopefully it'll be relevant to you guys. But just to double check, can you just put your hand up if anyone shops online or buys anything online? And then put your hand up if you buy anything offline. Should be everyone. Okay, so this is definitely relevant for you guys. So as I mentioned, my name is Farshad Dabeshkhoy, commercial director for Criteo for the Middle East. And it's great to be here in Kuwait. It's actually my first time presenting at ArabNet in Kuwait, so I'm very excited to be here. Let me just make sure this works. No, it's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the vibrant future of commerce marketing. I'll go into exactly what that means, and obviously go into some of the challenges and opportunities that come from that, and how both as consumers it should be quite interesting for you, and if we have any retailers or commerce players in the room, you should also find that quite interesting. So I'll dive straight in the interest of time. I know we all want to grab a coffee. Sorry, these clickers really not playing with me. Sorry, the clicker's not working. I think Benjamin finished the battery. There we go. Where am I pointing it? Should I point it at the screen here? Should I point it this way? Or point it this way? This way, okay. So, conventional wisdom and the press will tell you that the e-commerce industry as a whole might be in a bit of a crisis. So we're seeing slightly declining profits, we're seeing some bankruptcies, and even some of the bigger players are actually struggling. But at the same time, we see that there's a huge opportunity for a select number of independent players to actually innovate and then come out of this situation that we're in now as a leader and actually being able to compete with some of the giant commerce players in the region, even Amazon. This is going to be fun, guys. Bear with me. No. Can you just click next? Whoever's at the back. I'm just going to, every time I do this, just click next. So our online and offline worlds are basically converging, and I'm sure you guys as both consumers and some of the businesses in this region will appreciate that. It used to be super clear, right? We used to have the big giant commerce players online, like Amazon, Souk, etc. And then we had our offline department stores, boutiques, supermarkets. That line is very much closing in, and it's actually blurring because of what we call the omni shopper. And to actually be able to compete within that sort of commerce landscape, you need to be able to deliver seamless, relevant, and convenient experiences to all of your users on all devices, both online and offline. Ah, it worked. No. Okay. Bear with me. So we're going to go through three of the trends that are actually shaping this sort of transition that we're seeing. Habits exist now as shoppers ourselves, where they never really existed before. So for example, we're seeing that 40% of all transactions that are made online had multiple touch points, so multiple devices. Out of that, we're seeing that people just have a shorter attention span. Now, if you think about how you buy online, we see that 50% of shoppers are actually bouncing around from retail site to retail site before they actually make a purchase. They could be comparing, they could be seeing if they, those shoes come in a different color or whatever it might be. But in addition to that, they've confirmed that 80% of their journey is both online and offline. So we can't be looking at them in silos, we can't be looking at them differently, and you need that full picture to actually understand what's going on. Oops. This is a lot more trickier than it looks. Sorry. Can you go back? Back? No, back. Back. Yeah. Also, in terms of expectations. So nowadays, there's certain companies that are setting the scene on this one, and it's our expectations. When I order something online, I don't want to wait 3 days anymore, and I want to have it now or latest tomorrow, right? So, and that's because of what's available through technology. I want to be able to pay for it quickly. I don't want to have issues with payments, having to pay cash or whatever it might be. Or I might just want it to be as convenient as possible for me. Maybe I don't want it to be delivered. Maybe I just want to order it and then pick it up in store. And the same with returns. In addition to that, there's some really innovative stuff coming out. And again, mentioning Amazon here with their drone technology, where in certain markets now, obviously some of you might have heard, you can actually order something and have it delivered to you in half an hour, which obviously sets the scene and obviously sets the pace, which in this region we're obviously seeing progression with the likes of Souk, Noon, and some of the other local players also following in those footsteps. And that personalized service and that customization, which used to be so specific and a bit of a premium luxury that you could only offer certain shoppers, is now available at mass. There we go. So what we did is we took one of our biggest markets where we have shopper data, and that was the UK, and we wanted to understand what behaviors and why this shift within, or the convergence of online and offline is happening. And it was really interesting to see that the two top points that came across from the cross-channel purchasing survey that we did was that 28% of the shoppers regularly, they order goods online and they actually pick them up in a retail store. So it's not about ordering and then waiting for it to be delivered to your house. And that's solely because of convenience. And the second point there is just browsing online, but then actually preferring to go in the store and buy it. Now, if you think about what kind of products could fall into that, if you're buying a handbag for, I don't know, $1,000 or $2,000, you probably want to actually be there, touch it, feel it, see how it looks. Whereas if it's a lower priced item, you could probably get away with actually just ordering it online and waiting. So this is a quote which I wanted to share with you from the founder and CEO of Luma Partners. Now, for those of you who don't know Luma Partners, they're an investment bank, but anyone within the industry from media or AdTech, I'm sure you've seen the Lumascape which they've built, which is an illustration of AdTech and media partners and how it all works together. And he's basically going through the fact that even within marketing, we used to look at it as above the line and below the line marketing, and now it's all about focusing on driving that user down the funnel to actually convert and buy something. That's when we all get paid. And that's what the importance of this discussion today is. But obviously this creates some challenges. So we're going to go through some of those challenges and what happens. A lot of the retailers and the brands, they're spending a lot of money with CRM equipment, software, data management platforms, and various other stacks to actually be able to collate and understand their shopper data. But even with that said, there's still a lack of ability and an insufficient amount of data to actually be able to collect, organize, to program, and actually learn from that data to be able to do something beneficial from it. And what we're seeing is, obviously, we've had some of those guys already on stage, but what we're seeing is that a lot of the data sits in these walled gardens of these big social media networks and search engines, whereby it's great for them, but it's not really that useful for the retailer individually. So what that does is it creates certain challenges. And as I mentioned, there's three key components that we need to be aware of. Number one is to have a really deep understanding of your user. Number two is to have the ability to actually reach them and actually send them the right message at the right time. And number three is to understand what product is actually going to inspire them and help them buy. But the problem is, obviously, with everything that I've mentioned, it's getting harder to know them. That data deficit that I was talking about, in terms of the data sitting in various devices, both online and offline, and within walled gardens of the Facebooks, the Googles, etc., that is becoming very difficult for you to actually know who the user is and what they're about. That was meant to happen. Hello? Back. Nope. Sorry about this, guys. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I might just do a dance. Play some music, please. Sorry, guys. So basically, I'll talk through it even if it's flickering behind me. But basically, what's happening is that in addition to that, it's getting actually harder to recognize them and actually reach them at the right time in the right place. So what's happening is that your marketing message is actually coming across completely disjointed. So if you don't know how to reach them or where to reach them, the sort of messaging you're trying to portray for them is all chopped up, and it's not seamless, as I was mentioning. And of course, it's harder to inspire them. So having the ability and the technology of when it comes down to machine learning to actually understand what will that user be inspired by and what will actually help them to actually engage with your business and inevitably create more sales and profits for you. So what I'm trying to make clear is the fact that the user journey, the path to purchase, is no longer linear as it used to be. And it's actually really complex. And the only way I could actually figure out of actually explaining it is to use a pretzel. So I like pretzels, but in addition to that, it's also a key thing to remember that these users are across multiple devices and multiple environments. Now, in any stage of that process, if you're missing a chunk of that pretzel, you've got a broken pretzel. And let's be honest, nobody wants a broken pretzel. So it's a case of understanding where are they, how are they interacting with your business, and then being able to take a bird's eye view and understand where the weakness is, and then being able to attribute that correctly. And that's one thing that we've been focusing on for quite a while, and that's why I'd like to introduce you to the Criteo commerce ecosystem. Now, commerce marketing is a marketing category which enables effective measurement of performance, sales, and profits. Now, the reason this is really exciting is actually it's the only marketing category which touches both online and offline. And this is why it's becoming the biggest marketing category. It's interesting because it's the first time that actually digital touches physical, and it's actually based around people buying things. And because it's based around buying things, it's not around just engagement or consuming content. It's measured by performance, which means, again, sales and profits. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's what counts to all the retailers and brands. So in order to understand the foundation of what makes this all possible, it's around data, as I've mentioned, and this massive amount of shopper data that's required to make some of these decisions, what we call the Criteo shopper graph. So what we did, we actually partnered with Forbes to carry out some research, and we reached out to 500 senior level execs to really understand where their stance is on this disruption that we're seeing within retail, and how that's helping to shape commerce. And what we saw is that, one, they're fully aware of data cooperatives, and they understand the opportunities that come from it, that come from data collaboration and pooling of data together, and how it creates increased sales, profits, and customer satisfaction. And it was interesting because some of the data that they actually were more than willing to share with us was around the website usage, the user behavior, both offline and online, and obviously even point of sale, so within their stores. And this is what really drives the decisioning that I've been talking about so far. Now, what that does is it's a collaborative effort, obviously, of trusted commerce companies that bring together really granular data on identity, interest, and measurement within an open, safe, and transparent environment. Now, what that allows us to do is to identify the user across any device, application, environment, both online and offline, which means that we can actually have that unified approach, right? We can see the whole pretzel, right? So we can see that whole unified approach and then make that decision. It allows the engine to understand their interest and then let you make a good prediction on what is actually going to drive and inspire them to actually interact with your business. And then obviously in terms of measurement, the actual crucial point which is lacking in our industry is the ability to be able to attribute to both retailers and brands to let them know where and how these transactions are happening. So you can imagine the amount of power that gives a retailer or a brand to make decisions not only digitally but also offline and across multiple marketing channels. So our vision was obviously to create the world's biggest open performance ecosystem, whereby we would allow anyone participating within our ecosystem to benefit from the intelligent technology that we have with the huge data sets at scale. Now what this does, it actually completely levels the playing field. We've had giant commerce players who have made it a little bit unfair to actually compete, and they've got the benefit of having these huge data sets and allowing them to make these decisions. But now we're saying, well, actually, it's the perfect time for the retailers and the brands to actually come together and actually collaborate and then collectively power this solution, rather than each individual one trying to compete with the big commerce guys alone. And there's not many ways to do this, and I'll go into why we're in a position to actually be able to support that ideology. Now, I'm wrapping up now, so we're almost at coffee time, and the slides are going well, so that's great. But this is based on the evolution of what Criteo has been doing for the last 12 years. It's based on our network of tens of thousands of retailers, brands, and publishers, all centered around this integrated marketing technology, which is custom built for commerce, and is powered by machine learning. So to wrap up, just to summarize, as I mentioned, the industry and the consumer is completely changing, but my slide isn't. And basically, it gives a lot of the retailers and the brands the ability to partner with someone who gives you the opportunity not only to compete, but actually to service and serve your customers in the way they expect to as the omni-shopper. Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you, Farshad, for enlightening us on Criteo's e-commerce marketing system. We apologize sincerely for the technical difficulties. I blame it on the AI. Yeah, no, it was all part of the plan. Just a reminder to download the app to stay on track of what's happening in this forum and the next. You'll also find sheets in front of you, the survey. Please fill it in so that ArabNet can know what you'd like to see next year. We're breaking for coffee, and we'll be back at 11:45 for the next few sessions. Thank you, and enjoy your break.